Welcome to the Torrent, this podcast with Brian from PSEUDO ECHO. Now, before we get into things, I would just like to ask you all to please, since this show is voluntary, could you show your support by liking us on Facebook, facebook.com/torrentthis. Only takes 10 seconds. The link's in the description of the video. Every bit of support goes a long way. Thanks heaps, guys. Really do appreciate it. Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the Torrent, this podcast with PSEUDO ECHO.
Hey, this is Brian Cannon from PSEUDO ECHO, and you're listening to Torrent This with Dando.
It's the Torrent This podcast. I am Dando, and right now I am joined by a man whose band dominated the Aussie charts throughout the 80s. And even though he's probably sick of hearing people say this, they are well known for their cover of Funky Town, and they're going to be playing in Geelong at the Barwon Club this Saturday, January 25th. They are PSEUDO ECHO, and he is, of course, none other than the very handsome Mr. Brian Cannon. Brian, how are you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Now, where are you right now? You said you were in a noisy area.
Oh, no, I was just trying to avoid a noisy area, being out in the balcony or something, so I've come inside. I'm just at home chilling out.
Oh, nice. Is that true? Are you actually sick of being known as the band who sang Funky Town?
No, that's fine with me. We wouldn't have done it if we didn't want that.
Yeah. If you were asked now to cover like a modern song, which would you like to sink your teeth into?
Gosh, I'd have to give that some thought. That's
Yeah.
not something you just quickly whip up.
Yeah.
Usually what I look for, because I've done covers with lots of bands that I've produced too, like Chocolate Starfish doing Your Surveying, and there's been a few over the years that I've done with other bands, and I usually advise them, and same with myself, to look for something that has got the most room for you to change it and put your own stamp on it. There's not much point doing a cover. Sometimes you hear these really lame covers. They just sound like a karaoke of the original.
Yeah.
For me, that's just a waste of time. That's just really pathetic. You've got to brand it. You've got to put your thing on it, and it's got to be substantially different to the original. So I'd often look for one. If it was an artist, if it was a male artist, I'd look for a song by a girl, and vice versa. If the band was a heavy band, I'd go, well, why don't we look for a song that's completely not a heavy song, a folk song or an old, club song or something completely different, and then we bring it into the sound.
Can I recommend a cover to you might enjoy if you like songs that sound different? Whitley covering Dancing Queen on Triple J Like a Version.
Well, it's probably got some nice melody, and lyrics might be a bit sus, but hey, it's funky. So you just look for the chord progressions and the time signature to make sure it's adaptable.
Yeah. What would be the best cover you reckon you've heard?
God, I think Leon Russell, who nobody would know who he is.
I know who he is.
Leon Russell covered Masquerade.
Okay, I haven't heard that cover.
Maybe he wrote it. No, I don't think he wrote it. It's a classic old song. He covered that. And I remember, hearing that and thinking it was just a crazy, complicated song as a kid. I didn't really like it. There was too many chord changes and key changes. Yeah, there was a few in the day, and I remember thinking, wow, is that a cover? And I didn't know that. But you know what? For every song every band that has an original hit, for the other four guys in the band, it's essentially a cover, right? Yeah. So, one guy writes it often, or two of them, the other guys didn't. So it's not that big a deal, when people go, oh, it was a cover though, or, and make it seem like it's a come down. It's what you do with it.
Did you ever have people back in the day saying, oh, you ruined Funky Town?
I've had about two people in the whole time. Renee Gale was one. I have a couple. They're usually purist, funky sort of funksters,
Yeah.
But not many. No, not many at all.
That's good, yeah. Well, anyway, man, what's been happening? How's the tour been?
Tour's been great, yeah. We've been chuffing them on, so that's all good. And I've been in the studio for the last few months recording a new album for PSEUDOs, so that's pretty exciting for us.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that in a few moments, yeah.
Yeah, school holidays taking the toll on it a bit. I'm going to have to really crack down after this week.
Yeah.
But, that's sort of the main thing that's been going on.
Have you found a good blend of like young and old in the crowd at the shows?
Yeah, we were just discussing this recently. Like when we reformed, say 10 years ago, it was a blend then because you had a lot of hipsters, sort of younger crowd coming through to check out this band.
Yeah.
And then you had your old fans. And then as we kept playing, we had more of the old fans really coming out of the woodwork to try and check us out again. But over the years, it's starting to cross into a younger audience.
Yep.
is very important to us. Not so much to lose our old fans, but to perpetuate the touring and keep the band going.
Did you write the new album to try and please maybe younger people, or would you try and appeal to your older fans, do you think?
It's a bit of it across the board, I think, to be honest, because it took me a long time to release anything new with Pseudo Echo. It took me a long time to commit to the direction, the sound, and how it was going to be written. And strangely enough, I made the connection, which you'll probably relate to this. I made the connection of what car manufacturers did. Example, the Mini, the Volkswagen, Jag did it for a while, Mustang have done it, Ford have done it with Mustang, obviously.
Yeah.
Where they go, okay, we've already got a classic, 50 years ago. Why can't we just have a classic again? What would it be now? And that's kind of, I thought about it. I thought, we had a sound. We had a brand, we had a sound, we had a look. So I had to think about, okay, I want to retain the essence of what was our sound then, but I want it to be now. And honestly, I literally made the connection with the cars, and I thought, look at the Mini, look at the Volkswagen, and I said, these are essentially a new car, but you can really see the heritage.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to do, and that's what I think I have done.
So an updated version of the 80s stuff, basically.
Yeah. It's still very faithful to the 80s. A lot of my sounds and everything, my palette that I used for most songs, the riffs, the chords, I don't try to get too clever. Because that was the other obstacle, when I wrote most of the songs, all of the songs I wrote in the 80s, I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
I'm now in my 50s, and a lot of times I can't even relate to the same progressions and riffs and lyrics, but I had to really kind of look at it from another view, and I think that's exactly the analogy with the cars.
Yeah.
So, it was a way of kind of still, not just writing like I did back then, but still retaining some of it.
Mm. Well, it's the last show of the tour this Saturday in Geelong at the Barwon Club. I'm assuming you're going to go out with a bang?
You bet.
Yeah. Be honest, how many bras have been thrown on stage this tour?
I think we've they've refrained from bra throwing and storming the stage because we had so many OH&S issues.
They're everywhere now. I hate those guys.
Yeah, we did a gig recently and they just stormed the stage, and the security weren't happy. Management were just freaking out.
Really? They stormed the stage?
Yeah.
That's great.
They were decent girls, and they just got a bit out of hand. And there were more audience on stage than band and management. We had 2 gigs at this event, and then they said, please, you don't do that again. He said, all right.
But
if I'd been a real rock and roll rebel, I would have, but I actually respected their opinions and the reasons and said, okay, we can't do that tonight.
But decent girls doing indecent things is great.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah. Well, when's the last time you played in Geelong?
We did a function there a few months back for the sports centre there.
Okay.
Which was fantastic. It was a massive crowd, and they were just such a great crowd. We were just overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So that was great.
What would be like the funniest partying memory you have from back in the 80s when you guys were at your ultimate peak?
The funniest what memory?
Partying memory.
Oh, partying memory. Oh, well, definitely the most outstanding one that stuck in my mind was Elton John's party, because while we were recording our album, our producer at the time was good mates with Elton and his, at the time, wife, believe it or not. And so he'd invited us to the show because he'd heard that, his friend John Punter was working with this new Aussie band that was going to be the next thing, So he said, bring the boys along to the show. And it was great because I actually wasn't a hardcore fan or anything, but having 4 older brothers, I had a lot of Elton John records in the collection of the family, and I knew his staff, and I thought, well, my brothers will be impressed anyway, so I better go. Yeah. And so we went, and then, Elton invited us back to the penthouse, at his house, not a green room.
Oh,
it was
wow.
at his place where he was staying. So it was quite intimate. It was just really Elton and his band and Pseudo Echo. So
you were hanging out with Elton John. That's wicked.
It was really a surreal meeting, and funniest moment that was when we were sitting on this sort of sofa, and then, they looked so old to us, these guys, all the band guys.
Yeah.
But, still rocking, and I remember being totally impressed with the gig, and like I said, I wasn't into that sort of music at all, but being amused, though, you couldn't help but go, that sounded amazing. The songs are incredible, everything. So I was on a bit of a high.
Yep.
And which leads me to Pierre and I sitting on a sofa, and this kind of cool-looking dude who isn't in the band, and I don't know who he is, but he looks like Don Johnson out of Miami Vice. He's got the pastel suit on with the sleeves pushed up, ponytail and hair slicked back, and very suntanned.
Yep.
And quite distinguished-looking, and he's got a whopping joint in his hand, and he sort of comes over and sits down between us and goes, you guys like a joint? Have a squig on that. And I didn't even smoke cigarettes at the time. But, this guy looked kind of cool, and he said, I'm Bernie. And I kind of, Bernie? And then Pierre sort of looked at me, and I think he said, Bernie Turpin. Bernie Turpin. So I've just gone, oh, my God, this is like a co-writer. Like, this guy's a legend.
Yeah.
So I couldn't knock back the joint. So I had a puff and coughed and thought I was high. So it was pretty funny. We both thought we were stoned after one little puff.
Did you feel like, okay, I have to try and pretend I know how to do this?
Oh, totally. I had no idea. Like I said, I've never even drawn a cigarette before.
Yeah.
There was quite a large joint.
Did you pull it off well?
Oh, probably not. No. Thinking if he was looking at, he would have laughed. He would have thought it was very funny, but he was very respectful and quite fatherly.
Yeah.
As he offers us the joint.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was great. So that was one of my most memorable parties that I've gone to ever.
That's very impressive. I don't think I'll ever get to hang out with Elton John, so kudos to you, sir.
Yeah. He was right there with us, just hanging out, in his tracksuit, looking very informal and sweaty and, jabbering away.
That's great. If only you had iPhones back then. Take pictures.
I know. And he said to me, I wish I could write a song like that about listening.
Yeah.
And I was so overwhelmed with that. I thought he probably just says that to every band.
Yeah.
He just said, that's a great song. I wish I could write a song like that. I felt like, this is Elton John saying this to me. Is he insane?
Yeah.
I'll swap you the Yellow Brick Road in a second.
That's great, man. Yeah, well, it's been over a year and a half since I last spoke to you. A lot's happened since then. Let's talk about the Pledge Music campaign.
Yeah, right. So yeah, look, this Pledge thing was a runaway success for us. It was a little bit iffy. We didn't know how to go about it at first. And I wasn't really sure about sort of, asking for funding. I didn't like the idea of that.
Yeah.
And look, ideally we didn't really need it. Desperately, we could have just done this, but we realised there was a way to actually have our fans be directly involved, and that was the really important thing to us, more than how much money you're going to give us. I have my studio, it's just my time, and so it was more about the involvement, and therefore we thought, well, if people are going to pledge, we need to give them something solid back.
Yeah.
That they feel like, well, they got their money's worth regardless, and it was, a real runaway success. We gave guitars away, we gave concerts away, we did private shows for people. People get to sort of sit in on sessions and get lyrics that have been handwritten and ideas as we've been working on them. So it was good.
I think because a lot of people, they sort of are against the Pledge Music things, stuff like that, because they say, oh, you're just asking for free money. But it's like, no, you're not, because you're giving things back to the people who are giving you money.
Yeah, I do think it is the way you go about it. Like, if you're not really giving back enough or you're not making the effort, it does seem a bit like that. I can see that from the crowd point of view. But, look, essentially it's a way for a band to get funding and release product without a major label.
Yeah.
And that means freedom, and that means indulging, and that usually leads to the fans being happier with what the product is.
Yeah, that's it.
For us, I have no boundaries on this record. I can do what I like. The song doesn't have to have this many choruses. It doesn't need to end in 3 minutes. So, it's like, great, stuff it. I just, I want this to go for 7 minutes, and it's still going, and the riff should keep going. So it's good in that way. Whether we're going to, indulge up our own bums is another thing. But I think the audience usually like what we like.
Yep. Did you write a song? Did you write songs for radio though? Some of them?
No, not at all.
Not at all. Okay, that's probably a good thing.
I do have a commercial sort of a sense about me. There's no doubt. I've always worked in pop music and bands dealing with radio over the years, but it was definitely not a barrier this time. We just thought, you know what? if we like this to go this way, or we want it to go dark and long and heavy, or quiet and no drums, or no, whatever, we just said that's what we want to do. If we enjoy playing it that way, that's how it goes. Radio was probably the last thing we've taken into account.
I look forward to hearing it, man. When's the album officially released? I couldn't find a date.
Well, it's supposed to be delivered 20th of February, which I think we're going to kindly ask for an extension on due to school holidays. I forgot about being Mr. Mum for a month.
Yep.
So I've had to deal with juggling my boy, and I couldn't really sacrifice his time for the album. I had to.
Every female listener right now is going, ah.
Somebody's handing me these lines.
Yeah.
So I did, and I said that to my boy that I wouldn't compromise his time. So we're going to ask just for a bit of an extension, but probably mid to late March will be the release time. So we're hot on the trails. Nearly all the songs are down. A couple are still working on melodies and bits and pieces, and then the mixing's been going sort of as we've been working on them.
Yeah.
So by the time we get them all down, the mixing will just be fine-tuning.
Is it going to be available in stores as well, or just the people who pledged?
It will be available to general public. There'll be the iTunes version of it, obviously, downloadable. We're going to make a small limited run of hard copy CDs.
Yep. And
we're still toying around whether we will use a label to do the distribution for us, or we'll just do it direct. That's in negotiation at the moment.
You should do records too. People are loving it at the moment. Yeah,
well, my daughter's partner has a vinyl manufacturing little small-time sort of operation that he's set up, so that could be something maybe I'll go and talk to him about it.
Yeah, definitely, man. All right, well, before I let you go, is there anything else you want to tell the listeners out there?
Come along Saturday night and enjoy some retrospective of Pseudo Echo, as well as we'll sneak in a couple of new ones.
And some decent girls doing indecent things, hopefully.
Yeah, and let's get them up again.
That's it. All right, there you have it, guys. This Saturday at the Barwon Club in Geelong is where you can catch Pseudo Echo on the final gig of their current tour, and for the latest news and info, like them on Facebook, facebook.com/Pseudo Echo. Always a pleasure, Brian. Thank you once again, sir, and good luck with Saturday, mate.
Cheers, Dennis. Thank you, buddy.
Catch you, mate.